Welcome to the Fly Culture Podcast. Here's your host, Pete Tigers.
You better watch out. You better not cry. Better not pout. I'm telling you why. James Gilbraith is coming to town. I could have sung that for you, but my singing's so appalling. But welcome to a very special festive edition of the podcast, and I'm pleased to be joined again by James Gilbraith. Boo, great to have you along. Are you feeling festive, my friend?
Well, I mean, you've got the wrong guy. I rally against it every year. I treat Christmas with a siege mentality. It's not to be enjoyed. You've just got to get through it. It's just a retail festival, isn't it? Really? And I wish they'd move it. Can we not move it to June? And let's have it then. It'd be a different kettle of fish, wouldn't it, if we had it in June? I'm not religious, so the religious aspect has no gravitas for me. So let's move it to June. Long days, everybody's warm, no colds, no rain, no wintry, horrible weather, no dark days. Get it in June and let's get the Barbie out. I'm always envious of Australians this time of year, who are having Christmas in summer. That's the way to do it. So I am the Grinch in our house. The kids know it. My wife knows it. Everybody who knows me knows it. I just want to get through it and be able to pay me bills in January. And I know that what a terrible outlook that is, isn't it? Peace and joy to all men. Bollocks to that. Let's just get through it. It's nonsense. The telly's crap. All the TV shows. I don't need to see Morecambe and Wise again. Do you? Do you? I don't need to see the Muppets doing Scrooge. I'm sick of Scrooge. I'm sick of it every year. It must be the easiest part of the year to programme if you're a TV guy. You just throw all repeats on, don't you? And it's just awful. So, yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's go.
Well, my next question was going to be Grinch or Happy Elf, so I think we know the answer to that one. And I've got to admit that Emma's brother and family descend to us in June, and it is fantastic. We barbecue a turkey. We sit outside in the sun wearing shorts. It's not quite Australia, but I can really recommend it. It's really, really good fun. Open presents outside. Really love it.
That sounds a logical, sensible thing to do. If I mention that here to my wife and her family, I'd be lynched. I'd be lynched as an heretic.
And tell me where you stand on decorations, because I'm sort of kind of in your camp as well. And Emma's, I'm just looking down now, is getting the Christmas tree ready. My plan would be to get it out as late as possible and get it down as quickly as possible. And it seems a whole load of work for I'm not really sure what. Are you similar? Have you got your decorations up yet?
Well, my 12-year-old daughter, she's 12 she's 12 this month, so she's a proper Christmas kid. So she would burst. So she had us all putting decorations up last Friday. Where they all live is a mystery. I don't know where all this stuff comes from, but it all comes out while I'm out. They get me out of the house, and then when I come back, it's trimmed up. To placate me, they hang floats and old lures off the Christmas tree. So that's the only so that kind of keeps me calm because I can look at floats on the Christmas tree rather than baubles. I believe baubles were like a pagan thing as well, like to ward off evil spirits and all that. And how's that working out for everybody?
Well, it's not kept you at bay, has it?
No. Turn news on. We need some more baubles.
Surround the world with baubles and we'll be absolutely fine. Are you one of these people that likes to steal a little bit of time between Christmas and New Year and see if you can get out and go fish somewhere?
I've already made arrangements. I'm going to go grayling fishing with my friend Peter, and the Grayling Society are doing a club day for my fishing club on the 14th of January. So we're going to go and have a couple of practice sessions. But the weather's been that horrible. I think we've had, a perfect grayling day, cold, overcast, and dry. We've not had one. I think we've had about 10 minutes of that kind of weather. So we're just waiting for a decent day where we're not just going to get totally soaked and freezing. We want some pleasure from it. So I'm planning to do that. I'm looking forward to doing that. And I didn't know the grayling was so well represented. That they have their own society. I mean, they're doing well for themselves, aren't they?
Yeah. But it's a great little thing, and grayling have been. It's funny, I was telling somebody a story of, the days of when they would be whacked on the head, and it's been lovely to see how things have changed for them as a fish. And they're not competing with trout; they're living alongside trout in their own right. They've been there, and now people have realised actually they're a beautiful fish. They're fun to catch. You're fishing for them in a different way, and it extends your season. I think that's one of the key things as well, that you've got something you can go and feed our habit with when it's allegedly, because I can't think of a really cold day that I fish. We've not, certainly down in Devon, we've not had that. So I've not had the opportunity. The river still, the one I fish at home, is still 4 foot up. So there's not grayling in there, but the local nearest river I could go for grayling, the Tamar, is similar. And so there's just been no chance of it whatsoever. I know when we were setting up to record, Warren called me, and I know we've been trying to go fishing for some grayling, and that's not going to happen this week still. And that's even looking at I've called in a favour to fish a chalk stream, and that's not going to happen still. And that's how it is. And it is. Do you find not fishing for long periods of time? Are you okay with that?
Well, after the salmon fishing season finishes on October 31st, I'm always ready for a break. So I'm not missing it per se. I'm missing getting out and doing something that just takes your mind off everything else. So for the first time, I'm missing it as a proper relaxation outlet. So that's what I want to do, really. I want to get out over Christmas, and so much of your time is taken up by other people's preferences of what they want to do over the festive season, that so sometimes you've got to be selfish and indulge your own passions, haven't you? And even if I get out for 3 or 4 hours a couple of times in December, that'll do me, and it'll kind of scratch that itch. But but I'm always glad of the break historically, because it allows me to think about something else other than where are the salmon? Are the salmon there? Will I be able to catch one? Which I don't mind, but I'm glad of the break. So it allows me to turn my frontal lobes to more important business.
Is that because, do you think, it's interesting what you said about that you like that break? Is that because salmon fishing and the season is so intense that you're putting so much effort mentally, physically, spiritually, just about everything else in the hope of something happening? Do you think that's why it's nice just to step away for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. You're always juggling time, and because you're always at the mercy of all of the elements and all the many different scenarios, that if it falls right, you've got to go. So you never know when that's going to be. So you're kind of always on call. It's like being on call. So you're always primed, ready to go. And that's draining in its own right, especially when we have a year like we've had this year, where we've had no real long, prolonged dry spells. So every week I've been looking, my tackle has never come out the boot of my car or the back of my van. It's always ready to go, like I'm in AA, and so the river's broken down and I'm going to repair it. that's what it feels like, that I'm on call. So I'm glad when that process is taken away from me, but from the season finishing, 31st, that's the cut-off point. You don't have to think about that anymore. It's ridiculous, really, but I love that as well. I really buzz off that. Um, you know, you're always crisscrossing bridges. You're always looking over. You're always checking the river. You're always looking at the height. You're always bumping into someone who's got a bit more knowledge or a bit more information, whether it's good, bad, or ridiculous. So you're never that far away from what's going on. And that becomes your primary concern, not like looking after your family or looking after your loved ones or trying to run a business. It's your primary concern is, I know that we need to pay a lot of bills, but the river's absolutely bang on, love. So I'm going to go. There's like a belligerent neglect around everything else except the river.
And it's funny you say that, because I just was saying there that the river's up still about 4 foot, and it's still just force of habit that every morning I look at river heights. I can't fish it, and it's out of season, but you're just used to it, aren't you? That you think it's one of the first things you do, if not the first thing, just to check river heights, isn't it, when you get up?
Absolutely. And there's been a lot. I mean, I don't know any sport that's had more words written about it than fishing, really. And it's always, you always hear that people are saying, oh, it's part of you. It really is part of you. That is part of me. I am part of the river, and the river is part of me. And I don't say that in any over generous terms. It's just the reality of how deep you're involved with it, isn't it? You it becomes absolutely part of your daily existence, and try to explain that to a rational person, and they find that hard to believe. Everyone else has to kind of invest into something. You've got to buy your season ticket for your football club, and you've got to follow it, or cricket, or whatever sport, or whatever your interests may be. I don't think it gets under your skin and in your bones quite like fishing does. I don't know why that is, and I think that's probably why so many words get written about it, because we're very passionate.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I know I started one of the magazines with the lines simply, I'm a fly angler. If I had to explain it, you wouldn't understand it. And
Well,
that's how it is to us, I think, isn't it? Just about everyone listening, I would guess, as well.
absolutely. I would be very surprised if anybody listening felt any different.
Yeah. And you said you were on call, and I was thinking, and when you're hearing let's say the water's right, and you fished hard, you fished well, nothing's happened. How do you cope with the beats upstream may have caught a fish or two? Is that all right, or do you think, oh, that was my chance and I've missed it, or they weren't by? Are you okay with that? Are you fine with that? Not in a competitive sense, but you're thinking, geez, that could have been my chance, and it's past. It's probably swum past me.
I really wish I could now say I rise above all that, Pete. I rise above all that. That none of that matters. It doesn't matter. Well done, I say, and I applaud those anglers who've managed to catch fish. Do I fuck? No, I go, oh, fuck's sake, what do you mean they've had 8? What do you mean they've had 8? They've swum right past us. We're on call. My shift finishes and another bloke's shift starts. We're fishing it in shifts. So when the jungle drums go, the beat above us has had 8 in a week and we've had none, we're gutted. We don't say that to them. We say, well done, isn't that bravo? And then you're going, how much is that club that they're in? Is there a waiting list? All that. Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. And I wish I could say I rise above it. There's not a lot you can do about it, but it is irritating. But I don't think irritating is the right word. It does bug you that that somehow you've failed and you can't say that they're not here. Usually you can lean back on the riverbank and go, there's no fish, bloody this, bloody that, da-da-da, da-da-da. But when you know that only literally a quarter of a mile upstream, someone's had 8, it doesn't half burn you.
And it does, like you say, you're sitting thinking, what did I do wrong? God, should I put that heavier tip on? Should I put a bigger fly? Should I put a smaller fly? And then that makes it even worse, doesn't it? And then it really starts to eat away at you.
Yeah, well, and then you like, it's everyone just goes, oh, you'll never stop a running fish. And everyone's thinking, yeah, but I want to try. I want to try. You never know. And it's the hope aspect of it is absolutely ridiculous, because we are absolute eternal optimists. Because we know it's really hard. You're fishing really for fish that are pausing, aren't you? On a lie, just resting up. So to get that so narrow to that absolute perfect moment where they actually pull your fly, it's really, really, or it is. I mean, I don't know what the odds are, but I bet it's 1 in a million. I bet it's something like that. It's certainly in that kind of atmosphere, isn't it? So when you hear that someone else has had one, it's amazing, because you go, what? But they were not. It were dead. It were dead. What? We didn't see. We've not seen any fish, so you can't imagine that someone else has had one. It's that like far fetched. So yeah, it is. It's an enigma, isn't it? It really is an enigma. So we're all trying to, on our waters mainly, we fish, instead of fishing for fish on lies, we're all trying to stop running fish, and it's the element of luck involved is massive. Massive. So you've got to get lucky. So what they don't tell you about the 8 fish up is that they've all come off known lies, and the people who've been fishing them has got about 600 hours invested in fishing them lies this year. They're the bits that we forget. We don't quantify that. We don't want to know that. We're just like, well, it must be easy. It must be easy up there. One of my mates went, they're probably spinning. I wanted to console himself with that, and I went, I don't give a fuck. I wish I was spinning. So it can all get it. But yeah, I'd be a liar if I said I was some like sage who was one hand clapping, Buddha on the mountaintop. I am not.
It's interesting. I'm circling around the word addiction because you say about the odds, and be they 1,000,000 to 1, be they lower, be they higher, you're just waiting for that hit, aren't you? That's what it's coming down to.
Well, I've been at salmon fishing now. I was counting up the other day. I've been salmon fishing pretty much solely, exclusively, for 28 years now, right? And I always remember Richard Pryor, when they were asking him about cocaine, right? He said, I've been taking cocaine 25 years now, and I'm still not addicted. So ask me and I'll say I'm not, but the evidence points to a serious addiction.
I remember when we last spoke, and you said that you used 3 words to describe your season: do not resuscitate. Did it continue along those sorts of lines for you, or were there any little brief moments of happiness and joy?
Well, yeah, thankfully, I enjoy trying, and I've gone a long way from quantifying a successful season on how many fish I catch. If we did that, we wouldn't bother, and it's a half empty outlook on life, and that's not me. So I've really enjoyed trying, and I eventually caught a salmon. So that were great. I didn't blank, so I've still not blanked ever. I'm going to put that on my fucking headstone. Never blanked. That's what smiley face emoji, carved into stone. Never blanked. So, and a few of my mates did blank, and I've I serve as a constant reminder to them that they have blanked and I haven't. So it's been a tough season. I went to a PowerPoint presentation given by two blokes from the River Loon just 3 weeks ago. And they were all on about how the big storms reduced the catches on the loon. So they thought they'd do something about it. And without boring everybody, they said that basically they need to make the top of the river, where all the spawning areas are, more resistant to big floods. So create refuge pools for the fry, par, and smolts. And what they were saying, and I never thought of it in this respect, is that when we have a really big Storm Desmond type event, it doesn't just kill that year's eggs, that it seriously reduces the fry and the smolts that have been in there for 2 years, or you know what I mean. So it wipes out like nearly 3 generations, or it severely reduces their ability to go out to sea and do what they're meant to do. And it was really, really good. They did a 10-year survey. They showed it on a graph and everything. And then they showed how they started making these very small changes, like putting in groins. It was called slow the flow. So slowing the flow of the river down. And they've seen an increase in salmon, and a small increase. But when you're talking about 5%, it's a lot, and 10% in numbers of sea trout over the last few years. And where they've been charting all the big storms, what they said, I mean, this room were full of like guys and everyone were listening. And then they got to this bit and he said, so by our reckoning, 2024, we're going to see an uptick of fish caught of up to 10%. So that were all we all took out of it. We were all walking out going, well, I'm definitely 2024. So we're hopeful. But it was really interesting because all this data were gathered by two blokes who had a bucket. You know what I mean? This wasn't an Environment Agency thing. And I left thinking, why is it always us that have got to do everything? And it just mind-boggling. And there was a representative from the EA there who was just watching, and he came up with some really good salient points afterwards. But it was these two guys who generated this enough for the government to actually take notice and maybe start putting some funding their way to improve to create these refuge areas within rivers, spate rivers. So it was really interesting. But I just thought, why is it always us? Why isn't anyone from any official background just want to help us? These two guys have done it all by themselves, and I'm really sorry that I forgot the names. I'll try and think. I'll try and find the email. But it was the best PowerPoint I've been to about river conservation for ages, and there's something to do with the loon catchment. So I'm sure you'll be able to Google it, anybody who's interested. But it was fantastic work, and the best thing about it was that it's not a massive budget that needs spending. It's something that little work parties can do to create these little back eddies and slack water, and we can all do a little bit. And as you know, doing a little bit usually adds up to a big change, So yeah, that was great.
Well,
What was your question?
I think you've answered it, and if you didn't, we went off nicely anyway. But wouldn't it be nice, I'll throw it out there, that if people contacted water companies perhaps and said, look, can we have a little bit of funding to help our cause and help what we're doing? It's not a great deal of money. It's great PR for you. Would that be something, do you think, might be worth considering?
Shouldn't they?
Yeah.
This should be, shouldn't they? I mean, let's face it, we're all at war with the private water companies. Panorama was on the other night. We're all aware that what they've been doing is profiteering massively at our expense. They do a bit of greenwashing, don't they? They've just given some money. United Utilities have just given £1,000 to help train a few people to clear Japanese knotweed and invasive plants and stuff like that. So I know they do something, but it's. I just wish they'd do what they were meant to do. Without us having to, call them to account. Just invest in the system and stop putting as much crap in the rivers, But it's just this massive game of PR all the time, isn't it? Rather than just be doing the decent thing. And while these places are run for profit, we're up against it, really. If it were up to me, I mean, they've made it so financially unviable now that I think they're 52 billion in debt, all the water companies. So for the country to buy it back and nationalise it, that it's going to cost 52 billion before they've spent anything, and they've done that for leverage, so that they can't do that, Well, if it were up to me, we'd nationalise a lot. I can't understand why you'd ever sell your greatest resource.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And all I can do is think, well, the lottery's starting again for you, perhaps due to other people's really cool work that they've done aside from organisations, that perhaps your chances have got a little bit better for next season. So we'll keep our fingers tightly crossed for that.
The graph says uptick.
Yeah.
10% more.
I might come knocking up there soon as well. But
I mean, if I can get a Springer, that's what drives me. I want to catch a Springer next year, definitely.
Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. I wanted to move on a little bit because I saw on Instagram that you were in possession of a really interesting stash of vintage fishing gear. And I noticed you had some old salmon flies or irons, I guess we could call them. Are you keeping those? Are you selling them? Were you doing a fly fishing or fishing fair as well, I saw?
Yeah, I did the National Vintage Fishing Tackle Fair down in Redditch. It's run by a guy called John Andrews, and it were good, like 40 stallholders, all with vastly much more knowledge than me in vintage stuff. There were some amazing split cane rods down there, and I didn't even get a chance to have a proper look round really, because I was it was the first time I'd ever done it, so I was a bit like a fish out of water really. But I had a few hardy reels, and I don't keep any of it. I've kept a Hardy Perfect, which I used and caught a salmon with this year. Everything else, I'm not. It's a luxury to be able to keep that kind of stuff, and with how quiet my removal business has been, etc., etc., the buying and selling bit, all that's stock. So it's one of them. If it doesn't sell, I'll end up keeping it, but it's all for sale currently. But it were really interesting. There were some really nice guys down there, and everybody were really charming and knowledgeable, and there's a certain demographic though. I bet there weren't many under 50 there. But they were all very, very passionate and really nice to talk to. Yeah, it was good. It was a nice experience. I'll certainly do it again.
And with the people there, when they buy these sorts of stuff and when they go to these things, do you get the feel that they actually fish with it once they bought them, or do they put it in a cabinet type thing and look at it, which
the vibe I got,
people do? Yeah.
Yeah, the vibe I got was that it was split. It was probably split 60-40 in favour of collectors who just wanted to finish off their collection. So a lot of looking at stuff, especially the guys who buy lures and long iron flies. Some of the stuff you wouldn't use it if you could. But then there's the other people, the course lads. They were all using the stuff that they bought. I would say definitely 90% of the course fishing lads, they want to fish like Mr. Crabtree.
Yeah, nice.
That was definitely the vibe I got.
Yeah, nice. I know I'm waiting to try and pick a rod I've bought up, and it's a American 1940s. It was cheap, thank you, Mark. And I can't wait to use it. It's. I think if you got these things, and I remember I saw a video of a bamboo rod maker, and he said, we spend all these hours building and making these rods. We don't want them sit in a cupboard, fish for them and use them.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got 13 split cane rods, some of them big salmon numbers, and one I'm converting over to use it as a barbel rod, just to see how I go on with it. And if it works as a barbel rod, it might become my new shrimping rod. But the other rods were all usable, but I'm still using my Orvis Trident that I bought, and that's part of me. So to use something else wouldn't be. It'd just be. It's not my history. Do you know what I mean? I never wanted to be Mr. Crabtree. I just wanted to use what I could use. I've still my course rod. I have a Kevin Ashurst. He won He won the world championship in 82 or 83. Kevin Ashurst. So I bought this rod for 18 quid from my local tackle shop, and I'll have been 15. So I still use that for tench fishing and when I'm fishing on a pond or whatever with my Mitchell. So I think I don't want to go further back to an era that was never mine. If that makes any sense. We'd heard of Mr. Crabtree and everything, but we weren't interested in Mr. Crabtree. We wanted to catch every fish in canal, and if that were a 15-foot telescopic roach pole, then that's what we were going to use. We didn't have any luxury. My first fly rod, we went to Woolworths and we swapped the prices from some dear ones down to some cheap ones, took them to Cash Point, and I had a glass fibre fly rod for $9.99, instead of $15.99. And so that's where we were. We were like the Bash Street kids. We had no time for expensive kit. You just had what you had. You had one rod, one reel, a pole, a bag, and a box, and that were it. Total.
Like your style. And you touched on Mr. Crabtree there, and that segues beautifully because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about writing as well, because the reason for this is that I bought a book that was supposed to be about Rory Stewart, who I think is quite an interesting guy. And I kind of like that. I love watching this Sky Arts program, Portrait Artist of the Year. And he was sitting, or supposed to be sitting for it, but he said for 4 hours, no, I'm going to stand up. And he's done some interesting stuff. And I thought I'd just buy a book and learn a little bit more about him. And I should have read the reviews on Google, because I subsequently found out after buying it that they were absolutely terrible. And it was either just the way I can figure it out was that it was either just cut and pasted from Google, or worse still, I think it might be AI. And I don't think it had even been edited. And it frightens me that there may be some form of marketplace opening where people are making a quick buck by doing stuff like that, or using AI to publish a short book. And this book, when it turned up, was not many pages. And when I read the review, somebody described it as a pamphlet. And that's about right. But do you think we're in danger of stuff like this? And I've touched on AI a couple of times in previous podcasts and may well have done when we last spoke. But do you think there is this fear that it could come into? Because I often think that I could, if I wanted to, and I wouldn't, and it wouldn't have any soul, I could run a magazine with AI articles, I think. So it would be very easy to do that. But do you think this is starting to slither and slide its way into our lifestyle now?
Absolutely. Wherever there's money, there'll be people wanting to be corrupt or bend the rules or blur the narrative. And I'm sure that if somebody has certainly with celebrity, so if you are a celebrity and you've got X amount of thousands and thousands of followers, there will be some publicist somewhere going, "Don't worry about content. We'll sort that. You just sign it off." And there will be. I suppose it comes down to you. It comes down to us. You're going to have to sniff it out, aren't you? You're going to have to sniff it out that these things won't have any soul and they won't have any real insight because they won't have any edge. Like when I was taking the Mickey out of Christmas, the Christmas TV. When you look at TV, it's so formulaic in what they want to put out. Nobody is willing to take any kind of risk. Everything is like, how many detective things do we need? Just on that aspect, how many reality shows about baking do we need? How many reality show about living in a jungle, reality show about dancing and people getting voted on and off? And these formats are now, they're ancient as well. So nobody's willing to commission anything remotely left of field. And that's all because of bottom line accountants. And they just want to be safe. Nobody wants to take any risks. So it's down to the consumer to be more savvy and to buy anything if that was its unique selling point. That it had no soul. It's been written because of it's been through your search history. It's been tailored to all your likes, and it's just engineered so that it's on what you're interested in, without any soul. So we're going to lose a lot of you'll there'll be a movement where people will be so anti AI that the only way you're going to avoid it is, staying off the internet, staying off your phone, and just being more analog about what you do. How that's going to manifest itself, I don't know. But nobody I know would knowingly buy something that had no thought gone into its creation, regardless of how clever the perception is that it is. It's a funny thing that I'm sure it has its uses, but in in publishing, I'm not sure if it's just going to regurgitate what it thinks you want to hear. I don't want to read that. Could you imagine all the great things that we love, all the great artists that we absolutely love, all the people in our music, or all the great songs or records or albums that, Marvin Gaye had got AI to write what's going on, or, Jimi Hendrix all along the Watchtower. AI would never create anything like that. And that's just two examples. AI can't do Bob Dylan, can it? It can't do Led Zeppelin or the Beatles or the Rolling Stones or Nina Simone or Aretha Franklin. They're trying to kick the heartbeat out of everything, and it's you've to rally against it, definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And you make some really salient points there, because with the TV, for example, the really poor programming. And I can imagine teams sitting around a table going, well, look, there's been a baking program. I tell you what, let's do a pottery one. Great idea, everyone. Right, now let's do one on woodwork. Great idea, everyone. Nice, cheap, easy. And I get that aspect of it, but that plays into AI hands, doesn't it? Because if everything's so simple and formulaic, it's easy for that to be replicated. Whereas, and I'm thinking what you said about detective series and along those sorts of lines. And the last interesting one, I'm sure I'll be corrected on this, that I can think of that was imaginative spin on that was Life on Mars. And where they took that and where that came from, to me at least, was really, really interesting. But we could be in danger, couldn't we?
There's just less and less I want to watch. I scroll through BBC Sounds, not to have a go at the BBC, but I scroll through BBC Sounds at all the many, 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 many podcasts that they have to listen to something at night before nod off. And I want to listen to something great. And I'm really sorry to say that there isn't anything that I get more than 20 minutes into and just go, I can't be bothered. I think the last one I tried to listen to was about the the life and death of Marco Pantani, the cyclist, and it was so over dramatized. They could have told the story in an hour, and they spun it out into 7. And it didn't matter who were reading it. Read a book. That's what I said to myself. Look,
Yeah.
but it's really hard to find something that's got any merit, that's interesting, captivating, that gives you some insight into another point of view. So I listen to a few history things, and I watch. But the other thing that it's like comedy's died a death, hasn't it? Or is it just me? Am I just go so old and wizened and long in the tooth? And because the older you get, the more spoilt you've been. You don't know any different. My son doesn't know about porridge or rising damp or faulty towers, and he wouldn't get those programs if he saw them. He might do, but we grew up in a time of. I mean, imagine trying to float the Likely Lads now. The BBC had never commissioned the Likely Lads now. 2 blokes just talking for half an hour about all sorts of stuff. They'd never, ever, ever dream of doing it. And yet it's one of the greatest things we've ever had, and that's just tip of the iceberg. But because they all seem so scared to make a misplaced step, and whoever's commissioning these things, they're all so scared about losing their own position that I think what AI has done, we seem to have lost the maverick, and we need all those great things were made by mavericks who took a chance. They didn't play safe. So I'm available if BBC need a new commissioner.
Now that would be interesting. I'd be tuning in. I tell you that for absolutely nothing, because like you, I'm not watching anything on the BBC. I can't even think of the news headlines, but they even advertise in the news now for their own
I know.
programs, which it speaks volumes, I'm afraid. But because I'm going to go down a very dark wormhole. I think if
No,
we
it's lighting
carry
it
on,
up.
no, I want to. Yeah, I wanted to. Well, the best way I can think of to do that is because this is supposed to be bloody Christmas as well, and we've taken it right down. I mentioned previously about dropping in the shit regarding your reading at Malin and Green, which I know went down an absolute storm. And I thought it would be fun to hear something from you from one of your books. And I wondered if you would read a little bit for us, tell us a little bit about it, which book it's in, and
Yeah,
read it along for us.
Yeah, right. Well, it's been hard picking, to be honest. So I'm going to do a bit from chapter 6 from the new book, which is Naked Neon Fish Porn. Right, and it's about a trip to the River Eden. I'm not going to read it all because it's an epic, but I'll read enough for you to get the gist. And it goes a bit like this. Naked Neon Fish Porn. Prepare yourself for some epically dark shit. Forget The Exorcist. Forget Saw. Forget The Audition. Forget Brexit. Forget COVID. Forget Trump and his rabid supporters. Forget Truss nosediving one of the world's biggest economies into the ground like a fucking dart in just a shade under 72 hours. What I'm about to roll for you is a front-loaded joint that will take you on a ferocious, hollow-tip voyage of true terror. Your jaw will clamp, your teeth will grate to the raw nerve, your eardrums will explode, your eyes will saw themselves shut, and your bones will turn to powder. Some dark, dark shit comes this way. So gather your loved ones and hold them close, as chances are that you will never be quite the same again. Pour a large one and prepare to go over the top into a hailstorm of bullets, face first towards a deadly blizzard of molten shrapnel. Is that light enough for you, Pete?
We can go lower, I'm sure.
I always wonder about what that football match must have been like between Allied forces and the Germans. There must have been a bit of needle in that, mustn't there? That Christmas Day football. Anyway,
Yeah.
on with the story. The River Eden is 100 miles north of my terraced house in Clitheroe. Catch figures for this river only reach me via occult-like secret winks and hushed tones, cloak and dagger tactics. My friends who fish the Eden will take a second to casually glance around the bar area before whispering its name. Not here. Let's go in the back, would be the boilerplate response in local boozers, said in a sober and sombre monochrome. Doe-eyed, I would follow after them, eager to receive the key to this mystery. Suddenly plunged into a gritty John le Carrier Cold War spy novel, Peter, the retired upholsterer, became George Smiley, letting me in on his sensitive classified material. In angling, information is fuzzy and always puts you squarely in the take it with a pinch of salt territory. So knowing when to pull the cord on distorted bullshit, parachute away from the fiction and try and land on fact is essential. Embellished tales grow by the drained pint glass, usually correlating of an increased time since measurables to success, which is why I try to think of the reggae tune Liquidator by the Harry J All Stars if an angler has me cornered. That way, I can filter any bunk information by not taking it too seriously. Try it next time you're in any kind of a meeting situation and some bloated executive is talking at you while blocking your line of exit. Peter Smiley, upholsterer and spy, has all of the info on the Eden Circus. Is in the inner intelligence circle and knows where the bodies are buried. When the rivers Ribble and Loon were underperforming in the 1990s, Peter and his spirited group of visionary pioneering pals went north, 4 to a car in a heroic effort to save on petrol, moving to a stealth theme of The Getaway by Lalo Schifrin. What they discovered is a stuff of angling legend. They got into fish, lots of fish. Free-line shrimp was his personal preference. Think the fluid, sweeping, dynamic brushstrokes of Picasso and feel the funk flow. And in my last book, Hooked on Hope, I briefly mentioned some numbers. Without wanting to go over old ground, I will just say that on one particular day back in the late 90s, 4 anglers hooked 32 salmon. Eventually, this glorious haul faded into the far distance of time, packed away inside the suitcase of legend, where it atrophied until there was nothing more than teary-eyed nostalgia. 20 years later, as middle age gave way to chronic oldness, the painted sunshine of optimism was replaced by a weary dose of pessimistic cynicism. But Smiley's people didn't forget. Throughout 20 years of dreamy hindsight, they vowed that if ever the Eden picked up again, they would remain tight-lipped. No grapevine, no jungle drums, and certainly zero social media. If the good times were going to roll again, it would be on a strictly need-to-know basis. How's that?
Fantastic, mate. Lovely. That sums it up, doesn't it? And I suppose those secret societies are going to become even more secret as conditions get tougher and tougher, unless, of course, we get that 10% rise as well.
Well, I always remember watching Spike Lee's film, Do the Right Thing, and this old guy says, those who know don't say, and those who say don't know. And that is it in an absolute nutshell. You know, there's loads of guys listening and watching what people are writing on all the social media platforms, but they're all watching in the dark. They never say anything, but they all just take all the information. And there was a recent poll like on Facebook, and it said, how many fish do you think was caught this year from the Ribble system. Was it 1 to 10, A, B, 10 to 20, C, 30 to 40, or 50 or less? And I'm thinking, and I know it's like more like 70. And they're going, we've had a very low response to this, Paul. And you're going, yeah, what do you want us to do? Yeah. So yeah, that was it. So it's funny, isn't it? Yeah, but that's part of the game. That's part of the game.
Yeah.
I know what's going on because I've put the time in. If you want to know what's going on, the answer is go fishing more. That's always the answer. Go more.
Yeah. Nice and beautifully put. And the word maverick comes to mind with your writing, which is beautifully observed, beautifully crafted, and different. And that's why I and many others love it so much. So just keep doing what you're doing. You've segued again beautifully. You mentioned Liquidator, Harry J. All Stars. I actually have the 12-inch version on Trojan upstairs somewhere. But that is a song that does go on quite a long time in 12-inch version because it is a little bit repetitive, but it's one of my all-time favourite songs. And it's lovely to hear it referenced in there. I know, of course, when I read it, that it was in there.
It's got that fairground kind of music, which is perfect for when you want to zone out. So when someone's just talking complete bile at you, just and it strips them of all self-importance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Harry J. All Stars, and it was Long Shot Kick the Bucket on the other side
nice.
of it as well, which is a great song as well. So, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, that takes us to music quite nicely. A few people have contacted me, actually, since we've spoken about listening to music on the river. Are you still doing it?
Well, I were till I lost my AirPods. There's a yin and yang with them AirPods. I found my AirPods when I was walking my dog because I thought, well, I'm never going to spend 200 quid on AirPods, right? So I was on a wire, right? My new phone doesn't have a wire; it's Bluetooth. And one day while I was walking the dog, I found a set of AirPods. So I went on Facebook, put them on the lost and found thing, and after 2 weeks, nobody claimed them, so I kept them. So, and now I've lost them. So I don't know where they've gone, but I still do it. I love it. Whenever I'm on my own, yes, I get a playlist primed and ready, and I have it on, and it absolutely enhances my day no end. Because as we were talking before, there ain't many fish about, but so if I can not catch fish and listen to some great tunes, then that'll do me. But also, you know, this year, the year before, I caught a salmon while I was listening to The Fall and Lithium, that covered by the Polyphonic Spree, and it was like a religious experience. You know, I was cleansed. It were brilliant. So I love it, and I all the time. I've got loads of playlists. I'm always trying to find new records or explore, and it's brilliant.
So we have this sort of playlist on Spotify that I've been asking podcast guests, and I know you mentioned the Beta Band last time, so I'll pop one of those on for you for last podcast that we did. But give us a tune that I can add to the playlist for this podcast.
Well, how about Lithium, the Polyphonic Spree? And one I've been listening to this morning. Aldous Hardy, sorry. The Barrel.
The Barrel, lovely. I shall get those on.
Yeah.
Nice choices. Nice. Well, we'll get those on there and add those to the ever-growing list. So we have a real mixture of stuff. We've had some hard trance that I'm about to put on as well, just from everyone who's chipped in with it, which has been really good fun to do. do you know what? We're just coming up an hour, and it's been wonderful as ever to speak with you. How can people? I hope this has inspired people as always. And I asked you to come on and read for us and just chat about life in general. But how can people find you? How can they find the books? How can they connect with you, Boo? Because I think we're so lucky that we have somebody like you in fly fishing. And again, maverick is a wonderful word that you came up with, but you seem to fit that bill really, really well. And I love you for that.
No, that's very kind. Well, I'm currently, it's Boo Gilbraith, Boo_Gilbraith on Instagram. And that's the one I usually go on. Or Boo Gilbraith on Facebook. Terminalchancer.co.uk is my website for the books. And I'm currently, I smashed my computer up. I got a computer from an house clearance, and I've never had a new computer, never, right? So I'm sick of everything not working right. So this one particular day, it took 2 hours just to open, right? Windows, dollar bills, Windows. I'm sick of him, dollar bill. He's meant to be this philanthropist. How about making something that fucking works, right? So I threw it out the back door over my balcony and into my backyard. I've never done anything like that before, but I guess it felt really, really liberating. And then I followed it down the stairs and smashed it to pieces with a vintage iron, right? So I'm now saving up for an iMac. I'm going to get myself a MacBook, and people have offered me like second-hand ones and stuff, but I want a new one. I'm going to buy a new one. So that's what I'm doing. And then, so writing is ground to an alt. The piece I've written for you was the last thing I've written, but I've been doing some brilliant research about fishing in Montana and all sorts of stuff for a piece that I'm writing. And it's really making me laugh at the minute because there's some great towns in there in Montana. There's one called Anaconda. You know, I'd fucking move to Anaconda just because of the name. And there's a few good bars in there. There's one called the Revolver, which sounds a bit upmarket concept. Anyway, so me and Lamont are fishing away through Montana, hypothetically, fictitiously. So I'm developing that at the minute, and I can do all that on me yellow legal pads and jotter books and mind maps and stuff. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. But anyone who wants to get in touch, please do. It's great to hear from people. I have had some people get in touch with me recently, all telling me how much they've really liked the work. And trust me, nothing inspires a creative person more than hearing that what they do has somehow touched base with the reader or the person who's enjoying whatever media it is you're doing, whether it's a painting, whether it's a magazine, whatever. So please, if you've got any time, please do take the time to tell the independent people in your life how much you enjoy it. Because as we were saying before about AI and that, the last thing we want to do is lose that and have something else that's been boiled down and it had all the fun kicked out of it.
Yeah, nicely put. And all I can do is shout as loudly as I possibly can, buy the books. They're really, really good. They're different and they come through a different and are seen through a different lens. And I think it's important our pastime is seen that way rather than being formulaic or structured in any sort of way. And I think we're lucky, as I said before, that Boo's part of this. So please search them out, support creative people. My shout and cry is always to people as well. If you're writing stuff, don't give it away for free. Don't do that. You put so much of your heart and soul into it. So please don't do that. It's been wonderful. I'm sure everyone is thinking, myself included, when you threw the computer out the window, that you did back everything up.
Yeah, that took me a long time because it didn't want to do that. It didn't want to do that at all. It didn't want. So I've got it all. I've got it on a hard drive. But yeah, I've got like miscellaneous broken laptops. The irony is, my wife's got a new laptop through work. We've bought my son a new laptop for school, and we bought my daughter a new laptop. I'm the only one who uses a laptop to generate any kind of income, and I haven't got one.
Wonderful. Well, fingers crossed that gets rectified in 2024. Boo, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, my friend. And I know I was you were billing yourself as a Grinch, but I think it's been a double Grinch off from both of us, but fun as well. It's always wonderful to speak with you. Thanks so much, buddy, for talking with me on the podcast today.
Well, thanks very much for having me on again. I love it, and I'll always. I think what you do is amazing, and you know that. So yeah, I'm happy to come on any time and blather on, and I might bump into you in a booze aisle. That's the good thing about Christmas. You can kind of you can indulge yourself with cheese and wine, can't you? So Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Boo. And thanks everyone for listening. Thanks for supporting the podcast and the magazine. I can't tell you what it means to us. It really does mean a lot. So all that's left for me now is to wish you a really fantastic Christmas. And let's kick a few fish out for 2024. Let's see what we can do. So just wishing you all the best. And thanks so much for listening as always.
The Fly Culture podcast is brought to you in association with Fly Culture, a quarterly published magazine owned and run by fly anglers. When it comes to fly fishing...